Hey, welcome to Steve Horvath Fishing. You want to catch fish? That's why we go fishing, catch fish. But you really want to catch more fish. If you do, and I ask you what your rotation is, okay, your bait rotation, what do you start with first? If the first thing you're going to say to me is, I like to, then you're not fishing for the most fish possible. Okay? So, what is it? Do you start, I don't know, what do we got? Start with a deep diver? Crankbait? Maybe a square bill? Jerkbait? How about a jig? Buzzbait? Swim jig? Chatterbait? What do you start off with? Like I said, if your answer is, well, I like to, you don't want to catch as many fish as possible. Okay? Your rotation should be dictated by several things. Number one, what's the weather been for the last 3 or 4 days? Has it been pretty steady? Has it been increasingly warmer in the spring? Has it been increasingly cooler in the fall? Would you say the weather's overall stable? Number two, what's about to happen? Is there a front rolling through? Are the next couple days going to be stable? Number three, what's the time of year? And we could break that down pretty easy. Either it's pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn, summer, transition to fall, fall, or winter. Pretty easy like that. Let's take a scenario. Right now, most of the country, the bass are either spawning or they're immediate post-spawn. Well, we know they get into a little funk, but the next important thing that happens is you got the brim spawn, bluegill spawn, sunfish, whatever you want to call them, okay? Whatever you have near you, okay? That's a big bait. The other thing that the fish might be feeding on, there's a shad spawn, there's a herring spawn. What is the major forage in your lake? That depends on what lake you're in. You could be in 2 lakes 20 miles apart and the forage is completely different. How big of a factor are crawfish? Okay. Let's say it's just after daybreak. Got a little cloud cover. Been nice and sunny the last few days. This is the first cloudy day. Kind of warm and steamy out. It's about this time of year. Well, you know what? Buzzbait could be a good deal. Maybe a spook. Maybe you want to go from top water, give that a half hour, an hour. Switch over to maybe a jerkbait. Nothing's going on. Chatterbait. Then maybe a square bill. And if that doesn't happen, guess what? It's time to slow down. Go to a jig, or a worm, or a Senko. That's your rotation. Now, it's the middle of the summer. It's been hot. Temperature drops 35 degrees. Winds out of the north 25 miles an hour. You are probably not going to do very well on a topwater. You're either going to have to do one of two things. You're going to have to get a reaction out of the fish, a jerkbait to start with, or crankbait, maybe a chatterbait, or you're going to have to fish slow, fish thoroughly with a jig and a worm. Okay, you just got off from work. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. About now. What do I do first? Well, a lot of people want to go out and throw a topwater. Sun's out. It's the warmest part of the day. Fish may or may not be eating the topwater, especially if there's no cloud cover. What do? Well, start off slow. Your rotation is backwards. Start off with a worm or a jig. Getting bit? Great. Keep going. Too slow? Maybe not covered enough water? Switch over to a square bill or chatterbait. Then as it gets darker, you want to switch over to the buzzbait. Let's say you're in a boat. Middle of the day, post spawn. Fish are moving out on the ledges. What do we do now? Well, try for a reaction bite first. I'm going to cover water. If there's cover on the ledges, fish the jig or the worm. And then as it gets darker, go to more aggressive baits. Maybe a swim bait. Actually, a glide bait, but a swim bait, something like that. What I'm getting at is the rotation of your baits and the baits that you select need to be based on not, well, I like to throw. They need to be based on what are the conditions. Hey, Steve Horvath Fishing. I'm Steve.